Issue 51 brings us back down to Earth along with the Witwickies. Spike wants to get rid of the Fortress Maximus helmet since he only joined up to find Buster, and now he's free and all. The Autobots, even Fort Max himself, are all okay with him not being the headmaster anymore, but wanted him to keep the helmet in case it should be needed. However, instead of just putting it in a box for safekeeping, he keeps having nightmares and instead decides to toss it into a junkyard like an idiot. After some new Decepticon pretenders hunt after him, he realizes that becoming Fortress Maximus has made him a new person, and it's a part of who he is now. So while he still can't have a normal life, he does need to be ready to summon Fortress Maximus should the need arise. It's good character stuff, and a nice change of pace after the epic of the Underbase saga. Also, the Decepticons are still making new pretenders, despite needing a genetics lab before for that, and no real reason to do so, especially when these ones are, like, animals with guns on their backs. With issue 52, the Autobots are working to repair those damaged or destroyed in the Underbase saga. This is a case where the Pretenders concept works better. 2 Autobot pretenders are dispatched to a black market to purchase the replacement microchips they need to make repairs. The place is unfriendly to machine life, and most of these aliens don't know that humans shouldn't be that big, so they're able to blend in. However, the issue also allows us to catch up with Skylynx, who had partnered up with a human from the Cosmic Circus, and unfortunately, the Decepticon Power Masters from Nebulos, who work for robot-eating creatures called Mechanibals. They rescue Skylynx from them before he can become dinner, although they in turn are captured by the Mechanibals and leading into issue 53, where they convince them to not eat them right away. Instead are ordered to get materials to make them a savory banquet. The Mechanibals hold Skylynx's human buddy as a hostage, and they travel to the planet Phoemax, wherein there's a warrior woman society that enslaves their genetically inferior men, but their leader is impressed with one of the Pretenders' fighting prowess and wants to perform snoo-snoo. Shenanigans ensue, Skylynx helps save the day, but they ultimately don't use the microchips they were going to acquire because they were taken from the robots the Mechanibals ate. Or rather, regurgitated. The Pretenders even make a deal to restore the robots to normal with all their component parts, since the entire layer of the Mechanibals is made of them, but like, why would they keep records of who it was they devoured and how to rebuild them? And they would need to get new parts and stuff because the Mechanibals must have ingested something, otherwise why would they be eating the robots? It just doesn't make much sense. Issue 54 brings us back to introducing new characters, but at least we have a decent story reason for introducing these toys, plus an in-universe explanation for them. These Autobots, the Micromasters, are brought in by Optimus to help replenish their numbers after the fight with Starscream. They're much smaller Transformers, the toys being Hasbro's answer to Galoob's Micro Machines. Although, in the mid-90s, Micro Machines fought back with the awesomeness that is Z-Bots. Yeah, I don't know if they actually were trying to compete. Probably not. I just take any excuse to show off Z-Bots. And in turn, the Micromasters in the comic assume robot modes only a little bigger than a normal human. Still big, but tiny compared to someone like Optimus. The idea in-universe is that with energy resources so limited, they're built to be smaller to conserve energy. Given a comment by Beast Wars Megatron about the Autobots and their larger size, it's likely a similar thing happened in the great upgrade from Autobot to Maximal in that universe. Anyway, they foil a Decepticon scheme to harness an electrical storm that would have annihilated most of Manhattan in the process, and elect to stay in the city to help fight crime, leading us to issue 55, where one of the Micromasters, Road Handler, gets roped into a wrestling match. It's actually pretty entertaining once they explain how professional wrestling works and plan a whole routine with it. Road Handler winning the Interplanetary Wrestling Championship. Ooh, probably shouldn't have gone for the title match. She might attract some new competition. Road Handler! You might be the hot new thing on Cybertron, but Moon Button is here from parts unknown to put you back in the scrap heap. Normally, I'd use the button press on you, but I think today it's more appropriate to use the trash compactor. Ooh! Ah! The Micromasters are presented as young, arrogant, and kinda hot-headed, But honestly, Road Handler has one point that kinda sticks well. He's doing more to improve human-Autobot relations than Optimus and the others have done in 50 issues, informing people about the Decepticon threat, making people trust the Autobots, and just doing good PR while also fighting crime. It's honestly really entertaining, well thought out and cute, especially Road Handler's pep talk to the kids. And remember, if I can do it in the ring, you can do it on the streets. You've got the power to beat the bad guys out there and make this planet a better place for you and me. Yes, even you can transform into a car and deadlift humans with one hand. Scorponok summons Decepticon Micromasters to try to defeat him in the ring so people would lose faith in the Autobots. The only downside of this whole thing is that while he wins, Road Handler turns heel and gives up wrestling, insulting the audience in that "I must make you hate me so you distance yourself from me and are kept safe" kinda crappy trope. This was Buddy Ansky's last issue on the book, apparently inspired from when other Marvel staffers went to wrestling matches and would talk about them at work. Honestly, it's just a really fun issue. I should probably review it on its own in the future, just because of how entertaining it is. From here on out, Simon Furman is the writer of the book up until its ending. Furman was a prolific author for the UK Transformers issues, so it made sense to bring him over for it. Apparently it was also Buddy Ansky's suggestion. Furman has both positive and negative aspects to him when it comes to Transformer stuff. Infamously, he stated before that there shouldn't be female Transformers, believing that they should be genderless, except in practice they're presented as male and use male pronouns, so genderless in this case just means He-Man Woman Haters Club. He apparently didn't get why robots would have women. Why would robots have beards? Why would robots have names instead of numerical designations? Why are robots programmed to feel pain? Why do robots become wrestling champions? I hope I'm making myself clear here. The 2 times he introduced Arcee into canon were, well, not great. The first is where she was built in the Marvel UK issues because a feminist mob complained about the lack of female Transformers, aka straw feminists. Although, given this franchise, maybe I should start referring to them as pretender feminists. The second time was an even worse idea. In the 2005 IDW continuity, she was originally a genderless robot who was experimented on and forced to become female, which is uncomfortable and bad for a number of reasons, to the point where future writers had to correct this in a variety of ways, but that's neither here nor there. Look, I don't point this stuff out so you can attack Furman or insult him or anything. He doesn't go out of his way to go on tirades about this stuff or refuses to write them or anything like that. It's an issue that's followed him around, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. Likewise, another lighter thing that's become associated with him: Furmanisms. Writers have things they like to do with their stories. Comfort zones, repetitive motifs, just things they'll keep calling back to, for good and for bad. For instance, Stephen Moffat, during his time on Doctor Who, a lot of his stories dealt with time shenanigans where events happen out of order for the viewer. Or a repetitive trick he liked to use in several episodes was a character going from one weird sci-fi locale to another looking for someone or something. And it's usually pretty pointless and unnecessary, but he does it anyway in a few episodes. It's a bit self-indulgent. Hell, even I have some of those things that I'm aware of and I'm trying to break myself out of the habit of doing. Points to you if you can point out what they are in the comments. And in Simon Furman's case, it's phrases that he likes to repeat over and over and over, referred to as Furmanisms. It's stuff like, "You will die screaming," "It is over," "Finished," or "Power beyond measure." There isn't anything wrong with them. It's just something Transformers fans noticed over the years, and it's become a fun quirk. Anyway, issue 56 returns us back to the main Autobots, and a recurring one who of course survived the Starscream slaughter, Ratchet, who's having nightmares about his inability to repair the Autobots. Well, given what we discovered last time, we've just gotta find a Pizza Delivery Cars logo, a coffin from a hearse, and the Wienermobile, and that's all we need to fix these guys. While the rest of the Autobots are on a mission, a group of Decepticons infiltrate the Ark with their replacement for the space bridge, the Trans-Time Dimensional Portal. Somehow they're able to reanimate some of the dead Autobots to attack Ratchet, but when he refuses to fight them, the Decepticons change tactics, disabling them and offering to take him back to Cybertron to make use of their advanced repair facilities. They're disguised as Autobots, which is why he trusts them. However, when they arrive on Cybertron, Ratchet is greeted by the leader of this group, Megatron. Bear in mind that Megatron has been gone from the series for almost 3 years now. Bringing him back to face off against Ratchet again is nicely unexpected, but also a great callback to early in the book's run, maintaining a strong continuity despite the change in writer. I think it was a good move on Furman's part. Does Ratchet even know that Megatron's supposed to be dead? Like, that issue only had Decepticons in it. Yeah, Ratchet even tells Megatron that he heard he blew himself up. From where? That's not the kind of thing the Decepticons would be advertising, and frankly, even when the two sides were working together to stop Starscream, I have a hard time believing that was a topic of small talk. Oh, by the way, did you hear? Megatron accidentally blew himself up along with the space bridge because he thought Optimus Prime survived on a floppy disk. Can you believe that? Pass the laser spanner. Also, minor continuity note between issues, Ratchet realized something was wrong when they teleported him away because they didn't bring the dead Autobots with them, except in the next issue, we see their bodies there too. Anyway, he's brought Ratchet here for his skill in repairing Transformers, using a new kind of Decepticon pretender shell to recreate a damaged Transformer within. He also explains that the explosion was supposed to cover his escape, but he miscalculated how far he needed to be from the blast, and instead was sent through the portal and ended up deactivated in a bad part of Cybertron instead. That's quite an impressive spin doctoring, Megatron, especially the part where you needed to cover your escape. From who exactly? Your own troops? I mean, they were probably going to back you instead of Shockwave, considering you already showed you could take down the Predacons on your own. He was discovered later after wandering dazed and confused by some Decepticon Micromasters, who repaired him and started working for him. He forces Ratchet to cooperate by threatening other Autobots who had been left on the Ark, which is now under his control. This patient... well, maybe Megatron still has a few screws loose, because the one he wants to resurrect is Starscream. Starscream has fallen! I, Megatron, am the new leader of the Decepticons! How the hell there are any remains of Starscream to be resurrected is confusing, to say the least, given last time he was giant-sized and blowed up real good, but whatever. In issue 58, Ratchet agrees to do it, but only to buy time, instead taking the opportunity to put his fallen friends, Grimlock, Jazz, and Goldbug, into some prototype pretender shells that Megatron had in the laboratory. Starscream's a blank slate now for Megatron to program as he wishes, wanting the irony of using him to gain revenge over... I don't know who. Shockwave's been missing since issue 39, and Ratbat's dead, and he's never met Scorponok, so... who does he want revenge against? While Starscream is sent to Earth to fight against the Autobots and Decepticons, who have realized that somebody has been manipulating them, we enter issue 59 with the 3 dead Autobots now restored. Goldbug is also now back to being Bumblebee because, well, he's the one they gave a pretender toy to. Ratchet says it's because of personal preference, that he preferred his original form. Hey Optimus, I repaired your damage, and I reverted you back to your original body. I thought your Power Master form was too chunky. Meanwhile, Starscream battles Scorponok and Prime's forces. Starscream's dead! I saw him destroyed, blown apart by the vast energies of the underbase! Ha! Perhaps then, Lord Zarek, I am his ghost, come to wreak dread revenge on those who let me perish! And if I am a ghost, I'd better go steal some eyes for Unicron so he'll give me a new body. Also, let you perish? Dude, you murdered like 50 Transformers! Fortunately, Ratchet left a surprise with Starscream to make him less dangerous. His original programming. A powerful enough hit reverts him to normal, who realizes he's outgunned and surrenders to Scorponok. Megatron had ordered his troops to plant bombs on the Ark, but with Ratchet's help, the Autobots aboard it used the trans-time dimensional portal to teleport them back to Megatron's base. Ratchet tackles Megatron into the portal. The base explodes, thankfully without Jazz, Bumblebee, or Grimlock inside, leading us to issue 60. Ratchet is presumed dead, which weighs heavily on Optimus's mind, especially with how many others have died in this war finally coming down on him hard. On Cybertron, our resurrected heroes join up with the Autobot resistance to stage some successful raids, though plan to return to Earth. Of more import, though, are 2 characters introduced here. The first being Lord Thunderwing, who's the leader of the Decepticon forces on Cybertron. The other is Bludgeon, this pretender who's a samurai with a skull for a face. Okay, admittedly, he may not fool people into thinking he's a real human, but the psychological warfare angle of a giant samurai with a skull face cannot be understated. Bludgeon leads the Mayhem Attack Squad, obviously there's no Cybertronian word for subtle, to the Autobot Resistance Base, where our heroes prepare to leave, and we get a reference to the Transformers' god, Primus. You know, that's the first time I've heard someone cite the Transformers' legendary progenitor in many a year. I'd forgotten we had a god. Well, you know how it is. You buy a god from the store, say you'll get a lot of use out of it, but then you stick it in a cabinet and forget you ever got it. Bludgeon disrupts the interface to the dimensional portal upon his attack, and the Mayhem Attack Squad, along with our trio of heroes, end up not on Earth, but in the tunnels near the center of Cybertron itself. As established, Cybertron is a planet that's entirely mechanical, but in the exact center is not a molten core, but Primus himself. And thus issue 61, at long last, provides the origin story of the Transformers. An attendant to Primus, some kind of keeper who watches over the sleeping head in the wall, explains the origins to Grimlock, who demands proof that this actually is Primus. He says that in the early days of the universe, there were gods of light and darkness, and that age eventually died out as regular life began to emerge. Before Primus could become one with the Force or whatever, he needed to slay one final dark god, the Chaos Bringer Unicron. The battle eventually forced the two to change into pure energy and fall into two asteroids. On Primus's asteroid, he reshaped it into Cybertron, growing metal and machine all over the place, and creating the Transformers to be the last line of defense should Unicron emerge. He instilled his life essence into the creation matrix, which has been passed down throughout the ages since then. The matrix, according to his attendant, is the only thing that can destroy Unicron. And of course, Unicron reshaped the asteroid he was on into one of metal as well, but instead he took the form of the planet-eating destroyer we all know and love. Unicron now flies through the universe seeking Primus, who sleeps until he judges the Transformers ready to do battle. However, the civil war between Autobots and Decepticons has stagnated their development. Unfortunately, that's when the Mayhem Attack Squad finds them and kills the Keeper just to attack the Autobots. However, with his dying breath, he tells the Autobots that Primus can't be awakened. It'd be a huge signal flare to Unicron. Meanwhile, Scorponok is trying to explain to his forces why he let Starscream rejoin them after, he killed half of them. Although clearly he's doing better on the rebuild his forces front than the Autobots were, since this is where we see that Soundwave is alive again. Just saying, Soundwave, this is your chance to finally show everyone what an awesome leader you can be. Scorponok says that they need the additional help until reinforcements from Cybertron arrive, since the Decepticon Micromasters were actually working for Megatron, and he'd prefer to keep Starscream on a short leash where they can keep an eye on him. Or, you could find a way to restrain and reprogram him. It's obviously not impossible to do so, since Ratchet was able to. The angry silence that follows is all the answer the listening Starscream needs. He recognizes seeds of dissent and rebellion, and knows exactly how to sow them correctly, so he can reap the rewards. Scorponok is not fit to be your leader! After all, he let Starscream back on the team! I, Starscream, would never let Starscream rejoin us, which is why I should be the new leader! Back on Cybertron, they manage to fight without waking up Olmec, but Bludgeon shoots at Grimlock's back. The shot doesn't hurt him, but it ricochets off and hits Primus right in the face. The end of a slumber of eons is heralded by a scream that shatters audio sensors. You shot me in the face! Ow! Our heroes get transported to Earth, but of course the damage is done. Unicron now knows where Cybertron is, and thus issue 62 begins the Matrix Quest storyline. It seems that the Creation Matrix has a tangible form that Optimus would carry on his body, in his chest actually, which is kind of weird since Prime's decapitated head was able to use it, but whatever. Maybe that's only the case when it's the regular Marvel Universe that has Spider-Man running around on it too. The problem is, the other Autobots didn't know about that, and thus when they shot Optimus's original body out into space in issue 26, they were inadvertently sending the Matrix away too. And thus groups of Autobots are sent out to try to locate it, allowing some individual issues to do some genre parodies. This issue is all about film noir and a Maltese Falcon homage. Issue 63 is a western with a twist, but the important details of these two issues is that Thunderwing has learned of the Matrix Quest and is now seeking it out himself. Issue 64, we have a Moby Dick pastiche with an Autobot pretender, who looks like an alien walrus for some reason, that goes insane and tries to hunt a space whale that's been touched by the Matrix. In turn, we learn Thunderwing's motivation, that he feels an innate affinity for the Matrix and wants to be the first Decepticon to possess it. Issue 65 has the team of Bumblebee, Jazz, and Grimlock finally locate the planet where Optimus's body crashed, but it seems the creation matrix is alive and curious about life, altering life forms that come across it, with disastrous results. The issue is an homage to Alien, mostly in mood. In the meantime, we have another long-awaited return after a 2-year absence. In Blackpool, who should emerge from the water and kill a fisherman but Shockwave? I heard that Megatron had returned, and thus I must reclaim leadership from him because of how logical I am. Soon, an Autobot shuttle returns to the Ark, Prime expecting it to be his companions, but no, it's Thunderwing, who managed to acquire the Matrix, leading us into the finale of the quest in issue 66. To remind us what this is all about, Unicron destroys a world and takes 3 robots, reformatting them into new toys.
I have searched my futures for an agent, one whom I can send before me to wreak havoc among the creations of Primus. I have found him.
I'm the ninja consultant for the Decepticons.
With the power of the Matrix, Thunderwing easily rips through the Autobots on the Ark, and the efforts to take him down just empower the Matrix itself to take more direct control of him. It seems that it's corrupting, wanting new experiences through its holders and enjoying killing and maiming. Meanwhile, I guess Shockwave swam from Blackpool to New Jersey, according to this panel, since he finds Scorponok's new base, as well as Starscream emerging from it at night for nefarious purposes. The Autobots manage to destroy Thunderwing, but the Matrix is lost too, presumably. Optimus is hopeful they'll still find a way to stop Unicron. After all, they all have a little piece of Primus inside all of them. And I'm sure that tiny piece of Primus will be excellent seasoning when Unicron eats you all.